Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Are you aligning your genetic decisions with the future needs of the beef industry? We'll talk with a talented group of breed association reps who'll share their practical advice on how you can improve your herd.
And now, a special edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Today's beef producers are faced with a daunting task, improving quality and productivity without sacrificing efficiency and profitability. That's why it's important to have the right genetics for your operation. So what steps can you take genetically to improve the performance and profitability of your herd? I'm here with an experienced group of guys from a handful of different breed associations who can share some practical advice and wisdom on the best ways to improve the performance and predictability of your herd. To begin with, we welcome Colt Keffer. He comes to us from the International Charolais Association. And guys, I'd like you to share just a little bit of background of the breed itself. So Colt, tell us about Charolais breed.
Well, thanks for having me on, Kevin. The Charolais breed is a French breed imported through Mexico in the 1930s. It's always been a tradition. It's imported heterosis, performance, and power. So
fantastic. We're glad to have you here. And Tom Brink comes to us from the Red Angus Association. Tom, give us a little bit of background of your breed.
Well, good morning, Kevin. It's good to be here this morning. And the Red Angus breed got started in 1954. It's a derivative, of course, of the Angus breed. When they came over from Scotland, there were red-hided cattle. There were red genes that kind of hid behind the black. And some pretty entrepreneurial breeders in the late 40s and early 50s got started and bred the red cattle and created the Red Angus Association of America. So that's been a number of years ago, over 65 years now, and a very performance-oriented, EPD-oriented type of a breed, maternal traits, carcass, and growth.
Fantastic. You're based in Denver. Of course, the Charolais are based in Kansas City. And Shane Bedwell comes to us from the American Hereford Association, also in Kansas City. Tell us a little bit about the breed of Hereford cattle.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate being on the show. The American Hereford Association got its roots started in 1817 when the first Herefords were imported over from Herefordshire, England by Henry Clay.
Wow.
And then the association was started in 1881 formally, and we've been in Kansas City for about 100 years now, and are very proud to carry on the tradition and the heritage of the Hereford breed.
Fantastic. Glad to have you with us. Dan Moser comes to us from a breed everyone's recognized and familiar with, the Angus Association. Dan, tell us a little bit about Angus cattle.
Yeah, you bet, Kevin. So Angus cattle first came to the U.S. from Scotland to Kansas in 1873, and the association was founded just 10 years later. We've got a long history, a commitment to innovation, whether it's data collection, genetic evaluation tools, carcass merit, branded beef programs, that sort of thing.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming today. And finally, and you have recently moved, right, to the association to Nebraska, I believe, but coming to us from the American Gelbvieh Association, Tom Strahm. Tom, tell us a little bit about Gelbviehs.
Good morning, Kevin. Nice to be here. Gelbvieh originated in Germany in about 1850. Semen was imported to the United States in 1971, and the American Gelbvieh Association was created in 1971. The breed's always been used as a dual-purpose breed for milk and growth and strong maternal and carcass traits. Mm-hmm. And a really important part of our breed history is the development of the Balancer program, which Balancer's a trademark name for hybrid cattle. The American Gelbvieh Association was the first breed association to register hybrid cattle. That started in 1998 or 99, I believe, Tom. And so Balancers are out of 2 registered parents, mm-hmm. and a minimum of 25% Gelbvieh to a maximum of 75% Gelbvieh, with the offsetting percentage being either Angus or Red Angus.
Fantastic, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I want to talk just broadly about the role and function of breed associations, because of course some of our viewers are registered breeders, others are commercial folks that may not have as direct relationship with you all. Dan, tell us what, in your opinion, is the overall role of a breed association.
Yeah, sure, Kevin. You think about how breed associations originally evolved. There were organizations to keep pedigree records. We still go back and you see on the old dusty shelves of some of the original handwritten herd books there. But over time, as the beef industry has evolved, breed associations have also evolved to serve the interests of the commercial industry. And so now, whether it's the educational things we do or the databases that we've built of member information that we use for genetic predictions, that's really, I think, our most important role to serve the commercial beef industry.
And you mentioned the word evolve. Things are changing with genetic testing and everything that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Some question the future viability of breed associations. Tell me, Tom, how are breed associations evolving to meet the needs of tomorrow's cattlemen?
Sure. I think breed associations today are doing more than they ever have in more areas. Like Dan mentioned, the foundation of what we do is provide service related to pedigrees and really documented cattle. There's never been a time in the history of the beef industry when commercial producers have really leveraged the value of documentation from a pedigree and from an EPD or genetic prediction standpoint than today. They're really keying in on that, so that part of a breed association is the foundation for all of us here. But we also do many other things. Marketing programs, DNA, as you mentioned, has become a very significant part of what we do on a day-to-day basis because it helps make our genetic predictions more accurate. But the education component, which Dan mentioned, is a constant need. And so marketing, promotion, and really helping producers make good selection decisions. So breed associations wear many different hats, and I don't think we're going away anytime soon.
I would guess that's the case. As we talk about the future, certainly breeds many times are like religions. People go to one church and go to the same church for a long time. In other cases, folks choose to change or crossbreed over time. Just at a high level, I would be curious to know what criteria should folks consider when selecting a breed? Shane, you want to get started?
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think the big picture of looking at the breed focus and where you want to head in your operation is what kind of operation do you have? Are you a cow-calf guy that retains ownership all the way through the feedlot? What strengths and weaknesses do you have? Do you just sell at weaning, or are you wanting to keep females? And I think based off of breed complementary, the strengths and potential weaknesses of breeds, and trying to tie those two together for the end game and trying to maximize as much product potential, profit potential, trying to reduce inputs in all segments of it. I think you can infuse and work together with a lot of different breeds to get to that potential outcome. And so it just comes down to the bottom line and what roles of complementary that you can add to your herd to maximize that profit potential or reduce inputs.
Good. Colt, what would you add?
I would echo a lot of the same things. You've got to know what you're going to do at the end with your end product. Sure. And whether it's a mostly purebred type of commercial operation, quote unquote, or you're a mixed bag of breeds, you've got to know what your end product is, what your target goal is, and you've got to be able to balance everything. Probably the hardest part of a commercial producer's operation now is deciphering all the data we give them. And you've got to be able to look at it and decipher what you want and what's good for your operation and build from there.
Fantastic. Bull season sale season is coming up soon, and I suspect a lot of folks are getting catalogs and shopping around for bulls. We'll talk about some specifics later in the show, but just at a high level, Dan, what should some of the key considerations be when people are searching through those catalogs to find the next herd bull?
Kevin, I think it's always good for a bull buyer to really define that job description. What do we want that bull to do? Is he going to be used on first calf heifers or not? Are we going to keep daughters of this bull? Are we going to retain ownership of these cattle? Are we going to market the calves through a value-based program? There's a lot of good bulls out there, and the one that fits one person's specifications may be very different, and so I think it really is important for producers to get down to some very fine details exactly what we expect that bull to do.
That's right. What else would you add, Tom?
Well, I think it's important for producers to keep in mind maybe what are some of the strengths or potential weaknesses in their operation, and where they need to make improvement, So if they're wanting to increase growth in their calves or something like that, performance in the feed yard, or if they're wanting to put emphasis on marbling and other carcass traits, or if it's maternal traits for keeping replacement females.
Well, I have a number of more questions to ask you on that topic, and we have a lot more ground to cover before we're through. Coming up, our panel will discuss EPDs, both how they're developed and the long-term benefits they offer producers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's time to register for the 2021 Cattle Industry Convention Winter Reboot virtual event, February 23rd and 24th. Reconnect, reinvent, and reimagine all the ways you can engage with top industry experts and vendors virtually from anywhere. The Winter Reboot is a jam-packed 2-day virtual event consisting of education programs, a Washington, D.C. issues update, Cattle Facts Outlook session, Tech Tools preview, and a sneak peek at what to expect during the 2021 Cattlemen's College. This is a great way to reset in 2021 and prepare for the upcoming in-person Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, August 10th through 12th in Nashville, Tennessee. Dial in to convention.ncba.org for all the details and to get registered today.
Welcome back to this special edition of Cattlemen to Cattlemen, as we talk with a group of breed association reps about practical advice that can improve your herd. You know, we talked a little bit about EPDs in our last segment, and I want to dive into those just a little more deeply. Dan, just give us an overview. What are EPDs and what's their value to the commercial beef business?
Sure, Kevin. So an EPD, or an expected progeny difference, is just what the name says. It describes the difference you would expect when you have progeny of multiple animals, 2 or more bulls, for example. And the real value there is it's combining all the information that's available. So we're taking the pedigree information, the animal's own performance, all kinds of relatives in our databases, now adding genomics, and on older animals like AI sires, progeny data comes into it. And so we're getting an objective, accurate value that you can compare across farms and ranches. It pulls all the environmental differences from ranch to ranch out of it, so it's truly a direct genetic value.
And you know, many people see those as tools that registered breeders use, but they have a lot of value to the commercial cattle industry, right, Tom?
They really do, Kevin. I mean, they're extremely valuable to commercial producers. I think most producers today are looking to make multi-trait improvement. They want to improve the maternal aspect, maybe calving ease, growth, carcass. They're trying to do many different things because a commercial herd, in a sense, requires it today. EPDs are the most valuable tool to help accomplish that goal. They really do work. They work well. They've never been better. In fact, when Dan mentioned the inclusion of DNA and genomic testing, that has added value. And even our statistical methods are better today than they've ever been. And so commercial producers can rely on EPDs. They can use them with confidence, and they can improve their herds by using that tool.
You know, folks have said before, figures lie and liars figure, and there are a number of people in the beef business that have said, you know, I don't believe those things. I want actual numbers and so forth. Shane, walk us through the process. How do we collect this data, and why do we have a confidence in this data being correct?
Absolutely. Our kind of protocol at the American Hereford Association is our whole herd reporting program, and so all data comes in, or that data doesn't go into the equation. And so our breeders have the option to either submit the data through our mail system, or about 80% of our membership send data in through our real-time online registration system. And so all those phenotypes are flowing in now into our genetic evaluation, and we're producing that data on the backside through the calculation every week now in our genetic evaluation. And so we go through those same stages and protocols for birth, weaning, yearling, ultrasound information, and then as we move to some of our carcass EPDs and feed efficiency EPDs, the strength in our national reference sire program, and other breeders turning in actual carcass data, that information is flowing right into the genetic evaluation. And so with the progressiveness of I'd say several breeders within breeds, that data and getting that information and building that accuracy of that EPD is extremely important.
We'll talk a little more about genomics later, but Tom, give us a reference point. When you add then back in some genomic testing, you actually have the accuracy of multiple calves, is that right? Explain that to some of our viewers.
It is, you're correct. It's one of the greatest values of doing DNA testing on young animals because you get the benefit of some proof. It's as if, and we've actually done the calculations on this, you actually get the same impact in terms of EPD accuracy and the increase in that accuracy as if that animal had a significant number of progeny. Varies trait by trait, but it jump starts the accuracy for that EPD and really creates a lot more reliability and predictability. So it's a great tool. And as we talked before, the new methodology that we're all using is the one-step methodology, which incorporates that DNA information on the front end of the evaluation and really allows the EPDs to be generated using a simultaneous group of equations that looks at everything at once. It's very sophisticated and it's quite accurate, and it's a big jump forward from what we had before.
Incredible. The other question I have, I'm seeing increasingly bull sale catalogs coming out, not even printing some of the actual performance data like birth weights and so forth. What guidance would you give producers who are looking through a catalog relative to what emphasis they should place on actual performance data versus EPD? Colt?
Well, I think it's important to note that some people do want to see the actuals and some people want to see the EPDs, and I think it's a lot like any kind of bull buying experience. You want to understand that if you see the actuals and then you see EPDs, you got to understand that it is an expected progeny difference. It's what you expect that bull to do in production and not particularly how he weights and measures on that day. I think there's a different way to look at it. Some people do want to see that actual data to see what the performance is and quote unquote trust it a little bit more. But the EPDs, when you go into it and when you look at them, they are a very important factor of selecting how you want to build your herd in the future. Not so much on that day, but what that bull will do for years and years to come.
Dan, what would you add? What guidance do you give folks in terms of how they rate that relative information?
Sure. Well, Kevin, first, I think it's important to know as you look at seed stock to know that the data was collected. It's important that our seed stock producers continue to take the birth weights and the yearling weights and do the ultrasound measurements, that the data, in fact, was collected and submitted into the evaluation. Once that's done, though, and it's all baked into the EPD, the most accurate tool is the EPD because it weights all those pieces appropriately. And so I think that's where producers should focus their information. That sometimes when you focus on an individual data point, for example, an actual birth weight, if you go through a sale catalog and pick the bull with the lowest actual birth weight, you'll probably get one that was born to a first calf heifer, because that first calf heifer is going to have a calf 7 to 9 pounds lighter than she would when she's older. That's not going to be transmitted back to your herd. It's just an environmental thing, and those are the things that the EPD equations pull out.
We talk about EPDs, but one of the things that y'all have, I think, done a really nice job of is introducing indexes, because many times, folks' eyes glaze over when they look at all the numbers that you provide for all the EPDs. Tom, explain what an index is, and let's have a conversation about those.
Well, I think the American Gelbvieh Association created one of the first indexes about 2000 with the feeder profit index, and so it looks at all the growth and carcass traits. And so, if you're selecting bulls for terminal feeder cattle, you can use that index for high growth and high carcass traits. And then I would like to look at some of the individual components of that trait, like marbling, for instance, to make sure that that bull has an acceptable EPD for marbling and isn't all growth, for instance, with low marbling.
Economic indices are critically important. Tom, talk a little bit about that. You've got some experience there.
Right, we call them bioeconomic indexes, which is really what they are. They take the production traits and even the cost traits that we have and put those together and market weight those traits to give the producer an economic index that will affect their profitability very directly. They're, like we talked before, most producers are interested in multi-trait improvement. They're trying to do a lot of things at once. They're trying to juggle a lot of balls and kind of balance their selection. indexes allow them to do a fantastic job of that because they weight the traits appropriately. And so, like you said, Kevin, there's lots of EPDs out there. Sometimes that can be overwhelming to a producer, but if they focus on the indexes and then maybe just a handful of the EPDs, they can still do a tremendous job. So economic indexes simplify selection decisions tremendously.
Dan, your dollar beef has been widely acclaimed across the industry. Have you seen a lot of consistency and predictability in terms of high dollar beef cattle actually being more profitable?
Yeah, absolutely. We see a real improvement through the use of that index in marbling and feedlot performance conversion. You know, back in 2014, we added the feed intake piece into that, and since then, you know, our genetic trend had been increasing for feed intake. Now it's flat ever since, because now that's a part of the bit of information that Angus producers are using in selection. So you really can change a population by using those indexes and really find the most profitable combinations for the commercial industry.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for your insight. Now don't go away. We'll have more insights from our panel, including their thoughts on the future of genomic evaluation, right after this.
Are you ready for a better shot at profitability with a more consistent, more efficient cow herd? Then don't miss out on the maternal edge offered by Gelbvieh and Balancer Genetics.
Stayability and longevity is really a strength of the Gelbvieh breed, and you know, when these cows can remain in the herd 10 years or thereabouts, they return a lot of dollars to the producers.
Research shows Gelbvieh cows will stay in your herd longer with greater fertility and more pounds of calf weaned.
It's the ability of that cow not only to have that calf unassisted, but to own that calf, to stay right there with that calf, to do whatever's necessary to get that calf going no matter what. No breed we work with does a better job of owning that calf and making sure that she's going to take care of than the Gelbvieh breed.
For cow-calf producers, the maternal traits offered by Gelbvieh and Balancer Genetics are the smart, reliable, and profitable choice. Find out more at the website gelbvieh.org.
Welcome back. We're here with our panel of breed association professionals, and as we talked before about EPDs and more importantly genomically enhanced EPDs, I want to talk just a little bit more about that. And Shane, give some perspective. I mean, what are we able to determine through genomic testing that we haven't been able to determine through EPDs?
Yeah, I think the evolution of how DNA and genomics have influenced genetic evaluations has been substantial here in the last 2 or 3 years, of how we've been able to utilize a different form of incorporating genomics into our genetic evaluations, where we've been able to really pair out the true marker inheritance that those progeny are getting. And so, you know, the old methodology, we just kind of assumed that, you know, forming EPDs from pedigree estimates, an animal would inherit equal 50%. And
from both parents.
From both parents. And now we're kind of seeing that, you know, just like brothers and sisters that you have at home, we're not all quite the same.
That's right.
You know, and so that really becomes important as you look at the economically relevant traits of maybe a sire really has the potency to pass on all those favorable markers for say some of the maternal traits or carcass traits, whatever it may be. And so now we can really drill down, and that's the cool part about that genomically enhanced profile or EPD, is not only you're getting that more desirable proof and accuracy, but the prediction and quality of that prediction relative to those economically relevant traits is a lot higher accuracy.
And let's be honest, I mean, there are some traits that are either hard or impossible to measure, or at least expensive to collect that data. And it provides some, genomics provides some benefit in that regard. Would you agree, Dan?
Yeah, sure, Kevin. I think there's some traits that are. They're very valuable to the industry. Things like feed efficiency and conversion, potentially tenderness, some of those traits. It's just not feasible to collect those on every animal out there in the population. But we can leverage genomics, you know, intensely measure certain animals, and then with the DNA test, extend that knowledge to the whole population. And so we can make, you know, tremendous genetic improvement in some of those traits. It's never been possible before.
What, in your opinion, does the future of genetic testing look like to you?
Well, I think that as this proceeds forward, that there'll be new traits of interest, more things. We're starting to look at some things that are really regional and adaptability type traits. We've recently released a research run looking at PAP, or indications of altitude disease, which for most of your viewers is not relevant, but for a few of them is critical.
Very relevant.
You know, I think as we think about the Gulf Coast and heat tolerance and hair code and those sort of things, these sort of tools will allow us ultimately to help producers select the cattle that really flourish in those environments.
Tom, what do you see in terms of the future?
I think we'll see more collaboration and working together with the different beef breed associations, and Red Angus and Gelbvieh are both involved in IGS, which is International Genetic Solutions.
Sure.
That's a collaborative effort of 7 U.S. beef breeds and their Canadian counterparts, and Simmental, Limousin, and Shorthorn are involved in that organization as well.
Fantastic. And let's talk about the commercial application of this, because at the end of the day, that's where the rubber hits the road. And so what is the value of genomic testing, Tom, from a commercial perspective?
It's getting stronger every day, Kevin. I think this is a new tool that's going to be available and is available to commercial producers to help them with heifer selection. Most producers keep their own replacement heifers, but we haven't had a window. We look at them, we evaluate them phenotypically. Hopefully we look at their feet and their disposition and maybe the udder of the dam. Those are all good things to do. But we also don't get a chance to look inside at the genetics of a commercial animal. But through DNA testing now, we actually can do that. So at the Red Angus Association, we have the Red Navigator test. It is specifically designed for 75% or higher commercial Red Angus females. And we find that producers get great information from doing that testing to really help them fine-tune their heifer selection picks. We don't tell them not to look at the heifers. They still need to evaluate them phenotypically, but having that DNA information, having those scores on virtually the same traits as we have EPDs is tremendously valuable. And so I think we'll see that across the industry more and more. I think it's the future of commercial heifer selection, is using DNA as well as the stockman's eye, so to speak, to pick those replacement heifers.
And when we think about just what it costs to develop a replacement heifer, you know, it really is a wise investment. Would you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. You better get that decision right.
That's right. Thank you guys for that insight. And still ahead, we'll talk with our panel about crossbreeding and how that could impact an operation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Welcome back. We're talking with our group of Beef Association experts about a variety of topics that cattle producers face on their own operation. And, you know, we've talked a lot about data and EPDs and genomics. I'm curious, how does all that data translate to actual results on a ranch? Tom?
You know, one great example would be our stayability EPD in the Red Angus Association. There's other breeds that have a stayability EPD as well. That's really a longevity, a cow longevity EPD. What we find at Red Angus in analyzing the top quartile best bulls in terms of siring daughters with high stayability versus the bottom end of the bell curve, the difference is 1 live calf per productive lifetime of the cow. So that's very substantial. I mean, we all want cows that go into the herd and last a long time, and so we don't have to have a high turnover and high replacement rate. So the stayability EPD is a great example of actually, it translates into more live calves during a cow's lifetime. And so these tools really do work, and that's a very, very important trait. Stayability, longevity, very important to all producers. It's something that we really want in a commercial herd. We want it in every herd, right? And so the stayability EPD is a great example of how you can actually look at a trait and improve the number of live calves per female lifetime.
Now, I know we're talking with a group of breed association representatives that are very focused on one breed, but heterosis is not a new thing. It's worked in the corn business and the swine business and the cattle business, and you'd mentioned early on that you were the first breed association to really embrace crossbred animals and papering those crossbred animals. Talk to us about the value of crossbreeding, what people should consider in establishing crossbreeding program.
Well, I think the importance of crossbreeding is to be able to increase your production and lower your production cost. And so we talk about heterosis and hybrid vigor. One of the things that is very important is to keep in mind breed complementarity, so that depending on what your goals are and the direction of your program, that you can take advantage of the strengths of different breeds that complement what you're doing and where you're trying to go. And you know, when we talk about heterosis, there's maternal heterosis, there's an increase in growth and performance, and also there's an increase in health in crossbred calves in the commercial industry.
Fantastic. Colt, your breed was one of the very first to capitalize, of course, the Continental breed that came in as a key cross on some of these British breeds. Give us your take on crossbreeding and its value.
Well, crossbreeding, heterosis, hybrid vigor, I mean, it's all the hallmark of what the Charolais breed is. And we talk about EPDs, we talk about all these production values that go into the commercial cow-calf operation now. And honestly, the simplest thing that I see a lot of people do is focus on their cow herd, purchase a Charolais bull, turn it out, and then market their calves from there on. And that's the easiest thing that a lot of people can do to add dollars to their bottom line is heterosis. They get as much punch and value out of that simple heterosis as anything. Too often we can get a cow herd that's, with the increase of AI and the ET technology, sometimes a cow herd can get too intertwined and too related to each other, and heterosis really helps inject the things we talked about, the extra health and the added benefits, as well as growth and as well as performance at the end of the day.
So if somebody's watching the show and is either considering, changing breeds or implementing some sort of crossbreeding program, what guidance would you give them, Tom?
I think as you evaluate breeds and programs and crossbreeding programs, and really your approach to genetics, incorporating genetics from different breeds in your herd, you need to evaluate the breeds on their strengths and weaknesses, the complementarity, as Tom mentioned earlier, and really know why you're using the breeds you're using today. I mean, it's good to say, I'm using this breed because it brings me these traits and these characteristics, and maybe I'm going to complement that with another breed that does bring some different traits that I need in my herd. So really evaluate the strengths and weaknesses and come up with a crossbreeding program, if that's your goal, that is going to meet those needs and brings in complementarity. So know why you're using the breeds you're using.
And different, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Kevin, I was going to add, I think it's also important for producers to understand that breeds have changed over time.
Right.
That there was the perception at one time that British breeds do this and continental breeds do that, but continental breeds have improved calving ease significantly, British breeds have improved growth considerably, and so in many ways we're more alike than we used to be.
Sure.
There's some traits that we're still quite different, but I think that's important for producers to do their homework and understand breed differences.
And folks have told me that sometimes there's more variance within a breed than there is across breeds.
Exactly.
And so different lines within breeds certainly vary tremendously. We've talked a lot about data and EPDs and genomics, but there's one thing as an old livestock judging team member that I don't want to forget, and you said the word earlier, that's stockmanship. The fact is there are some things, Tom, that can't be evaluated by numbers. Shane, you get to judge a lot of shows. What guidance would you give us in terms of how we incorporate visual appraisal with this performance data?
Well, in my opinion, they need to be tied together. Obviously a bull passing a BSC and meeting some of those basic requirements is important, but feet and leg structure we have to keep at the heart of our breeding bull selection, our retention females that we're keeping back. That goes right in with longevity, obviously, and keeping docility. Some of those key traits that we have to be out in the pen, make those selection decisions, and really keep that craft of that stockmanship going on with it. And so it's a really neat time, I think, that we have in front of us, where we're really marrying both worlds together. If we can put our attitude towards it and really work at it hard, we can get there with the right kind.
Statistics and stockmanship both, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. When we come back, we'll have more insights from our panel of experts, including their thoughts on the different marketing opportunities that breed associations offer to producers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
that certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen as we get insights from a group of breed association representatives about some of the top issues facing producers around the country. You know, one of the changes that I've seen in breed associations is you all used to be so focused on helping market registered seed stock, and most associations now are really increasing their focus and attention on helping create value and market those commercial calves out of their registered seed stock. So I'd like to give each one of you an opportunity to talk just a little bit about some of those programs. Colt, you want to begin?
Yeah, we recently kind of retooled our agent source verification program. It's a Charolais Advantage program, and it's in partnership with IMI Global, help cattle qualify not only for agent source, but natural NHTC and GAP certification. It's really just an opportunity to help lend a little bit more marketability, a little bit more identification to those Charolais influenced cattle and help them try to tap into the markets, whether you go to a sale barn, you take them to a video auction, pick your platform. We want to be able to help those cattle maximize their value.
Tom, the Red Angus Association has a very popular tagging program that I'm familiar with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the FCCP, as we call it, Feeder Calf Certification Program, has been around since the mid-90s. It was actually the very first PVP done with USDA in the cattle industry, in the beef cattle industry. And the program's still growing rapidly because it does bring identification and it brings some documentation to what the calves are. That's becoming increasingly important. If you look at what's happening in the buyer community, i.e. feedlots, order buyers, they're looking for more documentation. They don't want just a commodity calf that is red, black, or white and they don't know much else. They want to know more documented information, hard information, and so that's what the Red Angus Yellow Tag program, as we call it, brings. Also the Top Dollar Angus program for top 25% growth and carcass genetics in the Red Angus and Angus breed. That also brings identity into a top tier program. So you're seeing breed associations, as you said, take a very active role in helping our commercial customers market their calves more successfully. That's good for the commercial producer. That helps them get more profitability in their system, and it also is good for breeders as well.
Shane, what options are available for those baldy calves?
Absolutely. So, just following up with Tom, last year we rolled out a female program with both of our associations kind of working together, the Premium Red Baldy program that's built off of our 2 female indexes. And so, kind of in lieu of what Tom said, because the fact that our breeders have raised the bar and improved on genetics, we've tied those true economically relevant traits into our selection indexes that were designed for the commercial producer in the first place. We kind of use those as our genetic qualifiers for all of our commercial programs, our Hereford Advantage program, our Terminal one, and then our 2 maternal programs, the Premium Red Baldy, that's built off of our BMI index, and our Maternal Advantage, either for the folks using British Cross or what would be down in the Gulf Coast region making some of those good tiger stripes. And so I think it's an attribute to the progress that we've been able to make in our genetic selection tools by incorporating those good economically relevant traits and really targeting a desired focus for the end game, and our breeders stepping up and progressing with the times, that we truly feel comfortable about offering these commercial programs to add value in the end game.
That's great. And Dan, of course, you all have had a way of adding value for quite some time with something called Certified Angus Beef, but you have some additional ways that you add value to commercial cattlemen as well.
You bet. The Angus Source Program is one of the longest running age and source programs and still rapidly growing. But we're very excited about the new Angus Link program, which we launched last year. It's an opportunity for producers that are using Angus and other breed bulls. We pull in the EPDs on those bulls and use that to calculate a score for the group of feeder cattle. And so we can rate those cattle objectively for feedlot performance, grid merit, and total profitability, and then help the producers use that in marketing so that they can gain value from the superior genetics they brought into their herds.
That's fantastic. And Tom, what's going on at the Gelbvieh Association?
Well, last year we released Balancer Edge, which is source and age verification in partnership with IMI Global for Gelbvieh and Balancer sired feeder cattle. And so we have some breed requirements as far as 75% of the bulls used on an operation need to be registered with our association. That allows for producers to be using some bulls from other breeds as well. And then one of the other things as far as determining genetic merit is the IGS feeder profit calculator, which is part of the collaborative effort that we talked about earlier, Kevin. And so that's a third-party valuation of the genetics and the management in an individual's producer's program. And so that will, in the end, generate a certificate that has a dollars in value per hundredweight over average of what those calves should be worth due to genetics and management.
One other question, what would you say to somebody who says, you know what, I don't plan to raise registered cattle, I don't need to buy registered cattle, and or to the breeder that said, you know, my guys don't care about registration papers, we never transfer the registration papers. What guidance do you have to those folks, Dan?
Well, I think that it's important to understand that seed stock operations, you know, they're making a significant investment in time and in technology to design, you know, the ideal and high quality cattle, and that the bulls that don't have that kind of thought put behind them, they don't have the genetic potential to really transform a herd the way seed stock bulls do. And this idea of getting the bulls transferred back to the new owners, that's very important for some of these feeder calf programs that we talked about. That documentation of what the genetics are in these feeder cattle comes through the registration certificate, the genomic testing, the EPDs, the pedigree, through the transfer, and so we can put an accurate, objective evaluation on those calves.
Kevin, here's the analogy I'd use. Would that same producer buy a pickup without knowing the horsepower or the towing capacity or many other specific specs on that truck that they want? That's really the difference. I mean, would you spend a lot of money on a bull without knowing really anything about the genetic merit of that bull? That's the difference between a registered bull that has documentation and good, accurate EPDs behind them versus one that is just a generic bull with no information.
That's great insight. Thank you. Now, don't go away. We'll be back with our good friend Baxter Black right after this.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
At Leachman Cattle, we're committed to building more profitable cattle. As a third-generation seed stock producer, our family has been in this business for over 80 years. Today, we have the best technology ever to build more profitable cattle. Our dollar profit index is a leader in the industry to help you balance all the traits that drive your bottom line. Give us a call or go to www.leachman to learn more.
Will you be able to survive in agriculture? Well, here's a test designed by the Cowboy Statistical Service to help you evaluate your chances. Now, you may take this test at home. Please select either A or B. Question number 1. My present financial portfolio includes A, over $1 million in land and livestock free and clear, or B, a 10-year-old 3/4 ton pickup, 6 horses worth 4 cents a pound, and a wife with a job. Number 2, most of my ready cash is in A, interest-bearing checking accounts, or B, a Copenhagen lid on the bedroom dresser. Number 3, my banker calls me A, Mr., B, every 2 hours. Question number 4, my idea of a sound financial investment is A, undeveloped pasture in downtown Dallas, or B, a racing greyhound. Number 5, the best cattle deal I ever made was A, sold 3,000 head of 28-cent Corianders for 56 cents 3 months later. Or B, I stole a truckload of feeder calves and lost $32 a head. Question number 6. I started ranching because A, I love the land and inherited $5 million. Or B, my daddy chained me to a tractor when I was 6 years old. Question number 7. I intend to ranch and farm as long as I can, A, make money, or B, borrow money. And question number 8. The reason I ranch and farm today is A, I find it a fascinating and lucrative profession, or B, I'm in too deep to quit. Well, if you selected all A's, you're an optimistic management type with oil on your property. It's highly likely that you will survive and invest in satellite technology. However, if you selected all B's, you're presently engaged in modern marginal agricultural practices. You will be here tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, and the next, because somebody will always have to be there to do the work. Well, thanks. I hope this little test will be helpful to you. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. We sure appreciate your contributions to our show. And we'll be back with more Cattlemen to Cattlemen right after this.
We didn't just design the 6M tractors with you in mind. We designed them with you by our side. The new 6M tractors from John Deere, reimagined by you, for you. With improved visibility, better maneuverability, and more ways to customize, so you get everything you need and nothing you don't. Experience the new 6M at your local John Deere dealer.
Grass is the center of our universe. We've got to have a grass program that we can count on and plan on. That's what we need to sustain us, to keep us growing, to keep us prospering.
Welcome back. As we wrap up our program, I'd like each of our panelists to share some final thoughts and insights. And Tom, let's begin with you. What would you tell our viewers?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us on here this morning, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this discussion. And thanks to American beef producers for producing the best beef in the world. You know, as seed stock producers and as breed associations, I think all these producers have made strides over the years, increasing the quality of cattle, the amount of information that is available for producers to make decisions with EPDs, indexes, and now we have genomically enhanced EPDs and everything. So there's many tools for producers to utilize to select the best cattle possible to fit the needs of their operations. And I think crossbreeding is still alive and well, and there's a benefit for heterosis and hybrid vigor.
Thank you, Tom. Dan, what would you add?
Yeah, I think it's a very exciting time to be in the cattle business. The technology in front of us is an amazing opportunity. The chance to really tailor both the cow herd to the environment in which we're producing them, as well as value-added beef products that our consumers are asking for. The days of all calves of the same color and weight selling for the same, I think those days are numbered. We are moving to a value-based market throughout the entire supply chain, and genetics are going to be a very big part of that.
Value-based and documented market, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Shane?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me be a part of this in the American Hereford Association. I would agree with those comments that the genetic component of your operation regarding bull selection, and this is a timely time to be talking about this, is it shouldn't be compromised. There's too much at stake in the game right now, and as margins tighten up, we hope that you can find some reliability and security in those genetic predictions and the tools that we make available to the commercial man, and take us up on our offers to help you market those cattle, and visit our website anytime that you would like to find out more performance information. We have our performance pedigree totally available on any of the animals at any time for you to dig in and dive into what you may like.
Fantastic. Tom?
You know, it's been a real pleasure, Kevin. Thanks for inviting the Red Angus Association to join this group, and I really appreciate being part of the panel. I would encourage producers to learn something new this year in 2019. I know we're a month in or so, but they need to learn something new and study EPDs. The genetic tools, as has been mentioned, have never been better. They're available to help a producer really make progress, the marketing programs, and really where the industry is headed. I think we're an industry that is advancing technically and with better technology in lots of ways, but that does require some learning. That can be a little bit of a challenge, but you know, take it on as a producer. Learn something new, incorporate something new in your program this year. We really see opportunity everywhere, and beef demand is good. That's the other thing. Beef demand is good, and it's because we're producing more quality and consistency. So, hey, it's been a real pleasure to be here, and we really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Tom. Colt?
Like everybody else, thanks for having me on, but I guess I'd just like to say that, you know, everybody has had good discussion. We've talked here today. If you're a commercial or if you're a purebred producer, the best thing to do if you're going to do anything, do it well. Study what you want to do, what your environment allows, study your marketing plan. At the end of the day, you've got to do what's right for you. So whatever breed you choose, simply study, take the indexes, take the EPDs, take the actual phenotype of the animals, and just study your lesson and do it well, and don't be afraid to reach out, whether you're a purebred or commercial producer. That's what we're all here for.
Well, this has been a very informative discussion, and I appreciate you all for taking some time to join us. If you'd like more information about these and other breeds, visit the website beefusa.org. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks again to our panel for their insights, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.